Hey, we welcome now to the KTSA Connecticut Quality Water Softeners Newsmaker line, Texas United States Senator Ted Cruz. And Senator, good to have you with us. Good afternoon to you.
Jack, great to be with you. Good afternoon.
I said earlier that not everyone who's going to Georgia is running for president, but everyone who's running for president is going to Georgia. So are you going to Georgia?
Well, everybody's going to Georgia, so yes, I am going to Georgia, but I'll tell you, Georgia is a fight for the whole future of the country, and so I think we're going to see the entire political world descend on the people of Georgia. I think we're going to see $400 or $500 million spent in Georgia in the next 2 months, because the Senate is at 52-48. We've got 2 Georgia seats on the ballot January 5th, and if we hold those seats, we keep a Republican Senate, and we stop the most egregious agenda of the far left. But if, God forbid, the Democrats win those 2 seats, Chuck Schumer is majority leader, and they will ram through a radical agenda. They'll end the filibuster. They'll pass massive tax increases. They'll pass the Green New Deal and destroy jobs across Texas and the country, and they'll pack the U.S. Supreme Court. And so it is an election of truly massive stakes.
I get that, and we all understand you got to deal with things as they are, not as you wish they were. But doesn't it seem really perverse that we're basically going to restage the election of last week only on a miniature scale in one state? I mean, it's nuts. It's crazy that we know so much about what will happen just by whether people have a D or an R after their name, and that just that one vote margin in the Senate, as you say, and you're not wrong to say it, will absolutely determine how senators will vote on all of those agenda items.
It is unfortunate, and we've become more and more polarized as a country. Some of it is also Georgia has a screwy election law, so they don't have primaries like we have in most other states. That they have what's called a jungle election, where every candidate is on the election, all the Democrats, all the Republicans, and then if nobody breaks 50%, they do a runoff with the top 2, and so that's just that produces a lot of runoffs. It's a weird way to do an election. I think it's much better to have a primary, have a contest for who represents each party, and then have a general election with a choice. But that's not how Georgia does it. And then we've got the second weird intersection in that we had Johnny Isakson, who was one of the senators from Georgia, is very ill, and so he resigned due to health reasons. And so instead of just 1 Senate seat on the ballot, we've got 2 because Kelly Loeffler was appointed to fill that seat and had to run the next election at the same time as David Perdue. So it's almost a perfect storm because it is control of the Senate all coming down to Georgia, which is razor thin. Georgia right now is decided within a few thousand votes, and so it's going to be about turnout.
Now, we were talking earlier, Andrew Yang thinks that Democrats should pay people who live in neighboring blue states to move to Georgia because they have very minimal residency requirements. Move there now, register to vote, and then you can return to your home state after the election. Is that something you would advocate Republicans try to do?
I think that's a terrible idea. And I also think if you just move there for the election and move out, you risk being prosecuted for voter fraud. But the Democrats are trying to get people to do that. I mean, they're willing. We have seen that too many Democrats are willing to cheat to try to win an election. There's been a long pattern of that in Texas and across the country. But that's one example of it, where they're trying to get people to move to Georgia just to vote in the election because they want to steal the results. You know, there's a big problem also in New Hampshire. New Hampshire's general election, they have instantaneous registration, and they've had a problem with people coming up from Massachusetts to try to move a swing state there too. This is not Georgia's not the only state that's faced it, but when an election this close, it could be a problem.
I know Michael Bloomberg at one point was suggesting he would pay people to move to Wyoming because it would take a minimal number of people in a sparsely populated state to flip that state. And I guess this is a lot of this is saying the quiet part out loud, right? And we're seeing that in the Democratic Party now. Since Election Day, there seems to be a little bit of a schism about whether Democrats could have done better if they hadn't been so crazy with defund the police and Green New Deal. And do you believe that Democrats regret the platform they ran on, or just regret that they said so many things out loud?
So I think some of the Democrats regret it, but they don't intend to change. Their party is captured by the hard left. The people driving their party right now are Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and AOC. And virtually every Democrat is terrified of them. That's their hard base. And so we're seeing in the House of Representatives some angry arguments because the handful of remaining somewhat moderate Democrats realize that their elections are in serious peril because the crazies have taken over. But at the same time, I'll tell you, in the Senate, I don't think any of the Democrats are willing to stand up to them. I'll give you an example. The person who is often heralded as well, here's an example of a moderate Senate Democrat, Joe Manchin from West Virginia.
Right.
Joe Manchin, I've served 8 years with Joe. Very nice guy, very affable guy. I cannot think of a single issue on which he has been the decisive vote in 8 years. He voted with every Democrat against confirming Justice Amy Coney Barrett. He voted with every Democrat for convicting President Trump in impeachment. That ain't my definition of a moderate. And the reality is that in today's hyper-polarized environment, the Democrats are terrified of the far left. AOC is running the show, which is why, and I'll tell you why it's even more dangerous. If Chuck Schumer is majority leader, which happens if we lose the 2 Georgia Senate seats, Schumer would be terrified of being primaried from the left by AOC.
Right.
He's seen other Democrats beaten by socialist extremists in a primary, and Schumer is nothing if not a political animal. He wants to leave zero space to his left, which means there is nothing, zero, absolutely nothing Schumer wouldn't do to appease AOC and try to forestall a primary challenge. The people of Georgia aren't aware of it, but AOC is on the ballot. I mean, it really is a choice. Do they want her to be the effective Senate Majority Leader? That's the choice on January 5th.
Unbelievable. Senator Ted Cruz, always good to have you. Please come back again soon. We appreciate the time tonight.